الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. This is lesson number 6 of our lesson that speaks about the Malikis changing from Athari creed to Kalam creed, or to theologist creed. So last time I spoke about Imam Malik and how he was, what was his creed, and today, inshallah, I'm going to speak about how his companions, how the students of Imam Malik were so strict in following the Sunnah. So the students of Imam Malik actually were like him. They were very strict in following the Sunnah. Imam al-Lalikai, rahimahullah, when he spoke about the great Imams of Sunnah in every city of Islam, he said, chapter naming the Imams of Sunnah and the ones that preached for Sunnah and guided people to the right path after the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he mentioned the Sahaba, he mentioned Tabi'een, and then when he reached to the Imams of Medina, he said this, look, the third stage, وَمِنَ الطَّبَقَةِ الثَّالِثَةِ, Abu Abdullah Malik ibn Anas, the jurist, Abd Aziz ibn Abi Salamat al-Majishon, and after them, so he said these two, and after them, his son, Abdul Malik ibn Abd Aziz ibn al-Majishon, and he's one of the great students of Imam Malik, by the way. Ismail ibn Abi Uwais, he's one of the great students of Imam Malik, and he is his son-in-law. He married the daughter of Imam Malik, and he's his sister's son. So Imam Malik is his maternal uncle. Abu Mus'ab Ahmad ibn Abi Bakr al-Zuhri, he is the judge of Medina, and he's one of the great students of Imam Malik, and he has a muwatta called Muwatta Abi Mus'ab al-Zuhri. And he has a book called Mukhtasar Abi Mus'ab al-Zuhri. It's he gathered the branches of fiqh in it. And from Egypt, Haywat ibn Shurayh, Al-Layth ibn Sa'd, Abdullah ibn Lahira, and after them, Abdullah ibn Wahb, Ashhab ibn Abdul Aziz, Abdul Rahman ibn Qasim. These are three great students of Imam Malik in Egypt. So these are the great students of Imam Malik. They are considered as Imams of Sunnah. And like them, we have in Iraq, Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, Muhammad ibn Maslamat al-Qanabi, then Al-Qadi Ismail ibn Ishaq. He was very strict in following the Sunnah and very harsh on the innovators. And they used to run away from him in Iraq, in Baghdad, when he was the judge, because he was very strict in following the truth. Abdullah ibn Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, or he narrated by Surayj ibn Nu'man, he said, I asked Abdullah ibn Nafi', and I told him that we have in our land people who say that Quran is created. So he said, he was so disappointed about that, and he stayed so angry and so sad. So he said, so sad, and saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, inna ilayhi raji'un. Then he said, Malik says, anyone who says that Quran is created, he has to be trained and put in jail until he repents. Imam Malik rahimahullah says, he said, and Imam Malik says, faith is uttering and acting, and it increases and decreases. And he says that Imam Malik says, Allah is in heavens and his knowledge is everywhere. Nothing goes out of his knowledge. And then he said, Imam Malik said, okay, then he said, Imam Malik says, Quran is the words of God Almighty, and this is what Abdullah ibn Nafi' says, and this is an authentic story. So look how Imam Abdullah ibn Nafi' mentioned the name of his professor and how he was so sad and angry when they told him that there are people who say this bad word. And from the great students of Imam Malik rahimahullah, we have Abdullah, son of Imam Abdul Aziz ibn Abi Salamat al-Majishun, the great jurist, Imam and Mufti of Medina. This great Imam took knowledge from his father and his uncle, or his maternal uncle Yusuf ibn Yaqub al-Majishun, and he took from Muslim ibn Khalid al-Zinji, Imam of Mecca, and from Imam Malik and Ibrahim Hassan and many other scholars. And many scholars narrated from him and took knowledge from him, especially Abdul Malik ibn Habib, the great jurist of Al-Andalus. And he was very addicted to his doctrine. Ibn Abdul Bar said he was a great jurist, very strong in Arabic. And he kept the Mufti of Medina until he passed away. And his father was the Mufti of Medina before him. And he is a jurist, son of a jurist. So he was actually a great Imam, actually. He passed away 213. Abdul Malik ibn al-Majishun says, anyone who says that Quran is created, he's not a Muslim, kafir. And Harun ibn Musa al-Farawi says, I heard him saying, if I found Bishr al-Marisi, I would chop his neck. Suhnun ibn Sa'id sent a letter to Abdul Malik ibn al-Majishun, asking him and telling him that we have a lot of innovations in our land. What should we do? And he asked him, so Abdul Malik ibn Majishun sent him a letter that is very interesting, that shows how following the Sunnah and stuff like that. So Abdul Malik ibn Majishun was asked to give an advice to somebody. So he said, be aware from theology. Be aware from theology. Because it's very bad in the end of it. It's very bad in the end of it. And Harun al-Farawi says, I heard Abdul Malik ibn Majishun saying, anyone who stops in the Quran and doesn't say created or not created, he stops. He says, oh, Quran is words of God and I don't have anything more. He says, if he says that because he doubts, he's not a Muslim, he's a kafir. And he says, anyone who stops in the Quran, it's like if he says that it's created. We have another great Imam, Al-Harith ibn Miskeen. We have, actually, if I mention all the names, we won't finish. And let me just give you another Imam from North Africa, Abdullah ibn Farrukh al-Farisi, who passed away 171. He was very strict in following the Sunnah, and he used to send messages to Imam Malik and he used to tell him about the situation in North Africa. So he said that our country has lots of innovations, and he wrote a book to refute them. So Imam Malik sent him. He said, if you think that you are capable to refute these innovators, I'm afraid that you might make a mistake and you'll go astray. So no one is allowed to refute them except if he's very strong and capable in knowledge, and he knows what he's saying to them, and they can't refute him. So if that's like that, the situation is like that, no problem about that. But anybody else, no, because he might speak to them and make a mistake, so they would follow him and follow his mistake, or they might take from him something, and they would continue and exaggerate in their innovation. So you see how Imam Malik rahimahullah was very strict in these, and how his students were like that. I have a lot of stories about the students of Imam Malik. We have great students like Asad ibn al-Furat and like others. Okay, I can't if I give you all these stories. And one of the great Imams of North Africa is Suhnun ibn Sa'id, rahimahullah, who passed away 214. And he was a great imam, a judge. He was a judge. And he stopped all the lessons of the innovators. He prevented them from giving lessons. And he was very strict in these types of things. We have from the great followers of the Maliki school in North Africa, and actually not North Africa, from Andalusia, we have Muhammad bin Waddah al-Qurtubi, passed 287. He wrote a great book in following Sunnah, and it's published until now. It's called Kitabun Fihi Ma Ja'a Fil Bid'ah, or they call it Al-Bid'ah wa Nahyu Anha. And it's a book written by the Tariq Muhaddithin, Haddathana Akhbarana. It's a very interesting book. And yeah. So we have lots of imams who were strict in following Sunnah, and they were very, very strict in these types of things. Okay. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Now let us speak about how did theology start, and how did the problem of how did the trial of creating the Quran appeared. This trial of creating the Quran is the worst trial that happened in Islam. And we're still feeling its problem, its impact until now. Imagine the impact of this trial is still appearing until now. Why? Because when the authority decides to adopt an opinion, it starts forcing people to follow it. And it uses all nasty ways to do that. And anybody who is against them, they might kill him, they might fire him from his job, they might stop his salary, and they might imprison him, they might do a lot of things. So therefore, people usually follow the authorities because they are afraid afraid to lose any of these types of things. Okay, so therefore, this innovation started by a guy called Jahm bin Safwan. He was a guy in Khurasan. And he was a free slave of a family, Banu Rasib, which is an Arabic tribe. And he was known to argue a lot. He used to argue and refute people and discuss here and there and a lot of things. But he didn't know hadith, nor he was a jurist. He's an ignorant person that just came out with this with this thing. And he started discussing and refuting and doing things. Okay, so therefore, scholars actually, all scholars rejected Jahm bin Safwan and his opinion. And until now, you won't find somebody who is praising Jahm bin Safwan. Who is Jahm bin Safwan? This guy is an ignorant person. He's nothing. But so sorry to say that his opinion spread everywhere and entered all types of opinions. So therefore, Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari in his Maqalat al-Islamiyyin, the opinions of the Islamists, which Islamists here means the people who are referred to Islam, not the Islamists that we have nowadays. So he says that Al-Jahm bin Safwan used to claim that he is from those guys who are against all bad things, and he calls for implementing good things. So he used to do Amr Ma'ruf and Nahy Anil Munkar. He used to show that he is concerned about Islam. Now, the first problem didn't come from him, actually. It came from a guy called Ja'd ibn Dirham. Ja'd ibn Dirham was originally from Syria, and he used to be the trainer of the last governor or caliph or I don't like to call them caliphs, the last sultan of the Umayyad dynasty, who is called Marwan ibn Muhammad. So he used to train his children. And that's why they call him Marwan al-Jadi, because he's referred to Jadi ibn Dirham. And he is the teacher of Jahm ibn Safwan. Okay? So therefore, this Jadi ibn Dirham, he started his innovation from a city called Tirmidh. Tirmidh, now it's in Turkmenistan. And he was killed by an Abbasid leader called Salim ibn Ahwaz. Or actually, he's not Abbasid, he's Umayyad. He's in the last days of the Umayyad dynasty. And he claimed that mankind, we can't claim that he has any power or ability or willing. Doesn't have any willing. He doesn't have even. He's programmed to do what he's doing. He's programmed like that. And God creates our actions, and we don't have any willing to do it. It's just like that. We are like robots. And he rejected all of the beautiful names and attributes of Allah Almighty. Yes, so he came out with this innovation. So he was killed by Salim ibn Ahwaz in Maru, the year 128. And Maru now is in Turkmenistan. Yeah. Okay. Salim ibn Ahwaz was the governor of Maru, and he captured Jahm ibn Safwan, and he told him that I'm going to kill you because of your bad opinions. Now, from Al-Ja'd ibn Dirham, from Al-Jahm ibn Safwan, so now Al-Ja'd ibn Dirham was killed, okay? Now, Al-Jahm ibn Safwan, he changed when he appeared. When Jahm ibn Safwan appeared, theology was only ideas, but now it started becoming more than ideas. It started becoming a spread ideas that many people started, intellectual people started adopting it. And therefore, Al-Jahm ibn Safwan's ideas spread in most or lots of Islamic sects. Okay, so therefore, Al-Jahm ibn Safwan, he's actually considered as the disaster of he's the founder of all disasters. And he's like a Samiri that was with the Israelites. He made them go astray. He made many Muslims go astray. And therefore, from Al-Jahm ibn Safwan's doctrine, the Mu'tazilites adopted his opinions in the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and many things like that. And therefore, actually, we don't have a group called Jahmis. No. We have Mu'tazilis that were called Jahmis. Now, Ahl Sunnah, when they refute the Jahmiyyah, they mean the Mu'tazilis. Okay? And actually, many of the opinions of the Mu'tazilis, it went and spread to the Zaydis, to the Imamis, and to the Ibadis. So all these three groups adopted lots of opinions of the Mu'tazilis. Okay, but what can we say that the Mu'tazilis just came came from Jahm ibn Safwan, who is not a knowledgeable person, not nothing. No. We can say that all this theology started spreading between Muslims after they got the Greek books, and these Greek books were translated to Arabic, and Muslims started reading it and adopting what are in it from philosophy and things like that. So the origin of theology is in Greek. It came from Greek, from the philosophers, the famous philosophers like Aristotle and Pluto and all these guys. So this is actually the origin of theology, and this was before Mu'tazilites appeared by Wasil ibn Ata and his fellows. So there were opinions adopted before, and there were some people who adopted those opinions and started speaking or talking about them. Okay, so we have things that were adopted, and we have some people who used to speak with some of these opinions, but it didn't become a group of people that we know now. And there were other names that spoke in things like that. I don't want to mention all this, but actually after that, Jahm ibn Safwan was killed, and Ja'd ibn Dirham was killed as well, and then the group of the Mu'tazila was started by Wasil ibn Ata, who was one of the students of Hassan al-Basri. Wasil ibn Ata passed away 131. He's so early. And why did they call them Mu'tazila? Mu'tazila means people who were far from something. They were with a group, they split. So the ones who split from a group. And what did they do? It's that they were students of Hassan al-Basri, and then when they asked Hassan al-Basri, they said to him, "Oh, Shaykh, oh Imam, what do you say about somebody who passed away, but he used to commit major crimes? How is he treated in the judgment day?" He said, "Well, he's a Muslim, but he has mistakes, and he goes by the willing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." So they said to him, no, that can't happen. How did somebody commit a minor or a major crime, and then he goes to paradise? He said, what do you say? They said, no, he's not a Muslim nor a kafir. He's in an intermediary between these both. So, and in the hereafter, he would obede in hellfire. So this was the main thing that made them split from his lesson and sit in another place in the masjid. So he called these guys split from us. These are Mu'tazila. So they were called Mu'tazila. And the Mu'tazilites use lots of rational statements according to what they understand, and that leads them to reject many of the things. Yeah, to reject many narrations, many hadith, many meanings that are in the Quran. In the days of the Abbasis, the Mu'tazila became an intellectual group, and they managed to have a branch. Most of them actually were Hanafis. They were students of Imam Abu Hanifa, and some of the students that are close to Abu Hanifa, Abu Hanifa is innocent from this, but he has some students that followed this opinion, especially Muhammad ibn Shuja' al-Thalji, and he had one of his students, or student of his students, that adopted these opinions. So this opinion spread between the Hanafis. Most of the followers were Hanafis. So therefore we had a guy called Bishr al-Marisi, Thumamah ibn Ashras, and Ahmad ibn Abi Du'ad, who was the greatest judge that al-Ma'mun took close to him and gave him lots of authority. He made him the greatest judge of the kingdom, the empire, not the kingdom. So he became the greatest judge in the days of Mu'tasim, and then he started trying people and asking them, examining them. So therefore, he went searching for So lots of books were translated to Arabic, like okay. So we have these lots of names here. I don't want to lose time reading that. But actually, in the days of Harun Rashid, the caliphs were very strict against these guys. They used to torture them. They used to imprison them. They were against them, actually. But, subhanAllah, Al-Ma'mun, son of Harun Rashid, adopted these opinions. And then he started implementing them in the kingdom and forcing people to follow them. So he was, actually that was because Bishr al-Marisi influenced Harun Rashid. And he took many of their leaders and he put them as his, he was his consultor or something like that. Al-Ma'mun in the year 218 decided that he is going to force people to follow his creed. So therefore, he gave the orders to try all the imams. All imams in the kingdom, he's going to try them. And anybody who refuses, he's going to be punished. But he passed away 218. Then his son Muhammad al-Mu'tasim started that. Mu'tasim was ignorant. Although he's a good warrior, but actually he's an ignorant, which means he's illiterate. They say he was illiterate. But he was so brave, and he was a warrior in fighting and stuff like that. And you know the story that he did in Amuriya, where he managed to revenge against the Romans or the Byzantines for a woman that called him. She said, well, Mu'tasima, she called him. So he went to rescue her. And so these guys in North Africa that adopted the madhab were these great imams. One of the greatest amongst them was the Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal didn't tell them what they want. He made his best to say the truth as it is. So Al-Mu'tasim decided to punish him and beat him, and he ordered them to lash him. He was lashed, rahimahullah radiyallahu. So therefore, when he was lashed, Muslims were so angry, and Mu'tasim was afraid that something would happen and people would rebel against him. So he decided to release him, and he ordered him to stay at home and not do anything, not teach, nor do anything. And that's what happened. But he was risen up in the eyes of the Muslims wherever you go. So even the students of Imam Malik, rahimahullah, used to respect Imam Ahmad and used to see that he's a model. He's a model. And that's why when this exam happened, the students of Imam Malik, rahimahullah, many of them were strong and they could stand firm to this trial. Stand firm, yeah. And North Africa, we had Suhaib ibn Sa'id, as I told you several times. He's the one who stood firm there and didn't reply to the innovators that ordered them, tried a lot to show this, to stand firm and stand on the Sunnah and reject this innovation. Now look, let us see, how did Imam Malik's students face this trial? It's a very important thing. How did students of Imam Malik, rahimahullah, face this trial? The students of Imam Malik, rahimahullah, were very strict in the East and the West. We have a book called Al-Mihan. Al-Mihan It's written by Abu al-Arab al-Tamimi, one of the great imams of North Africa, who is considered as one of the professors of Imam Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani. And he was one of the scholars that rebelled against the Ubaidis. Okay, so he mentioned in his book lots of stories of students of Imam Malik. He said that I heard Musa ibn al-Hassan, and he said I heard Abu Bakr ibn Abi Uwais, who was one of the students of Imam Malik, and he was his son of his daughter. Son of his sister. So he said when he went to them, they called him to try him. I mean, to tell him, hey, what are you going to say about this problem? He was called, Mutarrif ibn Abdullah was called, and these are two of the great students of Imam Malik, and they're from his family as well. So when they told him, look, the governor says so and so. Oh, the caliph says so. Amir al-Mu'minin, Abu Bakr says, am I gonna apostatize from Islam and reject Allah after more than 70 years, and after I sat down with great imams of knowledge who came to Medina? So they told him, okay, you're going to be imprisoned in your house. Never go out of your house. Mutarrif refused to answer him, refused to tell him what to say. Abu al-Arab said, again, he mentioned another story of somebody else there. Actually, there are a lot of stories and long stories. I can't read all those stories for you. He mentioned the story of Bakr Muhammad al-Taharti, one of the great imams of North Africa. That a guy called Al-Hamdani was tried by Al-Ma'mun about the Quran. And he started giving Ma'mun, who was a caliph, started giving him verses from the Quran, and he refused to answer. And then they made him sit down and they tied him to kill him. When they took the sword to chop his head, he didn't change anything. He stayed as he is. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescued him. How it happened, Allah A'lam. He rescued him. He wasn't killed. And this book actually mentioned lots of great stories about these imams. Al-Mihan li Abi al-Arab al-Tamimi. Muhammad ibn Abd al-Hakam, student of Imam Malik in Egypt, once said, Qaim ibn Muawiyah said, I saw Muhammad ibn Abd al-Hakam when they took him and they lashed him in the great masjid of Egypt, 30 lashes. And that's in the days of Ibn Abi Du'ad, who was the judge in the days of Ma'mun, because he refused to answer. Okay. So we have a lot of stories here of these imams. Abdullah ibn Muhammad, Abu al-Arab Tamim said, Abdullah ibn Muhammad told me that Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Ziyad told him that Ahmad ibn Ghassan, who is student of Abdullah ibn Zayd, he passed away in the prison of Baghdad with Ahmad ibn Hanbal, may Allah put mercy upon them, and Buwaiti, student of Imam Shafi'i. He was imprisoned because of the trial of creating the Quran, and he refused to say anything against the Sunnah, and he passed away in the prison, and he was buried in Baghdad. So these are the great imams. Then Abu al-Arab Tamim said, Ali ibn Ziyad, student of Imam Malik rahimahullah, was lashed. Abdullah ibn Zayd was lashed. Ahmad bin Hanbal was lashed. All these imams were lashed and tortured so they would follow this innovation. And he mentioned who were lashed and tortured in North Africa, like Al-Mahlul ibn Rashid and his students, and others. Yes, and others. Okay. Some of them escaped so that they wouldn't be tried, and they made their best so that they won't follow this these opinions. Yeah. So there he mentioned some stories of Imam Suhnun and others. But subhanallah. Now, what happened to the students of what happened to Ahl Sunnah after this trial stopped? And amongst them were students of Imam Malik, rahimahullah. This problem or trial of creating the Quran, which is called Mihnatu Khalq al-Quran, it stopped with Khalifa al-Mutawakkil ala Allah, who was Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Mu'tasim, and that was in the year 232. When his brother al-Wathiq passed away, he decided to stop this mihna. And he honored the Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah and showed him how to, and he used to actually respects him a lot. So therefore, and he stopped all the Mu'tazilis and the Jahmis and these guys and prevented them and kicked them out of their jobs and stuff like that. The trial went vice versa. Now pay attention to this. Now here, Ahl Sunnah, who were the leaders, had a big problem between them. How come? You know when there is a revelation, yeah. And then you gain, what happens? You go searching for the ones that weren't with you or that didn't do a good job, and you start torturing them, killing them, like what happened in Syria. When they took place, they started going and searching for the ones didn't speak, didn't do, etc. So they started punishing them. This is exactly what happened. And here, Ahl Sunnah started even being harsh with some of the ones that were with them. How come? Now, two fitnas appeared. Fitnat al-lafz and fitnat al-waqf. What are these two fitnas? The first fitna is that when al-mutawakkil took place, many Mu'tazila went back and started pretending that they are from Ahl Sunnah. So what did they use to say? Well, yeah, we don't say that Quran is created. We say that our pronounced with the Quran is created. But this word can mean two things. It can mean the wind. It can mean your mouth, your tongue. But it can mean the words of Allah. That's exactly what that means. They say that the Quran is created. Exactly. And so this is called fitnatul lafz. And fitnatul waqf is that some of these innovators, they say, well, if we say the Quran is makhluq, they will kill us. So what do they say? They say, we say the Quran is kalamullah, the words of Allah, and that's it. That's how Sahaba used to say. We didn't find in the Quran or Sunnah somebody saying that the Quran is not created. Why should we say that? We say just the Quran is the words of Allah. It seems that it's fine, it's good. But actually it's not fine, it's not good, because they're hiding something else. Yeah, the Quran is the words of Allah. Yeah, that's true. No Muslim says something else except that. But what do you say about it? Is it created or not created? So actually there were many Sunnis that didn't mean these bad meanings, that didn't mean these false meanings. But because they said something that is similar to the false meanings, Ahl Sunnah were harsh on them. Okay? So therefore, let us see what happened to the story of lafz. Lafzi bil Quran makhluq. Which means my pronunciation, my words of the Quran, not my words, no. A lafz is pronunciation. Lafadtu shay. Actually, lafadha means through something. When you spit something, lafadtuha. But lafz means the words that you're uttering or saying. Okay. So Imam Shafi'i, Imam Al-Hafiz al-Dhahabi rahimahullah says that Abdullah ibn Ahmad Hanbal said, I asked my father, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, no, my father was asked about the lafzis and the waqifis, if I can say. He said, if any one of them knows theology, he's a Jahmi. Ahmad al-Dawraqi said, I told Ahmad ibn Hanbal, what do you say about these guys that say our words with the Quran is created? So he was laying down or something like that. Then he sat down properly and he prepared himself and said, this is worse than the words of the Jahmis. This is worse than it. Because they're pretending to be Sunnis, but they're not Sunnis. So that's why he said it's worse. Okay? And then he said, anyone who claims this, who claims that Gabriel spoke with something that is created, and he came to the messenger of Allah, to Prophet ﷺ with something created. No, anyone who claims that, he claims that Gabriel spoke with something created, and he gave the Prophet ﷺ something created. So therefore, this is the real problem of the lafz bil Quran. Okay? Now, what is the idea of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal? He wants to stop those innovators that want to twist the words, and actually that's what happened later. So sorry to say this, that's what happened later. Exactly, that's what happened. Now, the Ash'aris and the Maturidis, they say that the Quran that we read, that we recite, that is created. They're not speaking about the cover or the papers or the ink or stuff like. No. They're speaking about the words. They say because the words of God speaks. They say, but He speaks with words that are not letters nor voice. No voice, no letters. It's something. Words of God are the Kalamullah. The words of God Almighty is something inside Him. And it's something that's old and imaginable to understand. So therefore, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal was strict in this so that he can prevent people from following this innovation. But it happened. So look. Let us see students of Imam Malik exactly what did they say. Al-Rabi' said that I heard Shafi'i saying, anyone who says my words with Quran or my pronunciation with the Quran or the Quran with my pronunciation is created, he's a Jahmi. And this is known by Imam Abu Zur'a and Ali ibn Khashram. Now, the students of Imam Malik were strict in this too. And we have this Abu Mus'ab al-Zuhri rahimahullah that I just mentioned. And he's, by the way, if he's from the descendants of Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiallahu anhu. Imam al-Lalikai said that Abdurrahman ibn Abi Hatim said that Abu Bakr ibn al-Mufaddal said that some people came to Abu Mus'ab al-Zuhri and they said, we have some people in Baghdad, we have a man in Baghdad that says his word, his pronunciation with the Quran is created. So it said, "Oh, people of Iraq, we always get from you disasters and problems. We have to see you with swords. We have to meet you with swords." That means he says, this is a very nasty word. This is هذا كلام نبطي خبيث. مسلمة بن قاسم, he was Al-Qurtubi, says, Al-Karabisi is not a trustworthy person. And he used to say that the Quran is created. And he used to use the words of lafdiyya, which means they say lafdi bil-Quran makhluq. Okay? Abu al-Qasim al-Taymi, Qiwam al-Sunnah al-Asbahani, says that the first one who said that lafdi bil-Quran makhluq is Hussein Karabisi. So Imam Ahmad was so strict against them, and he accused him to be a Jahmi. Okay. Now Imam Bukhari rahimahullah was accused to follow this innovation, but Imam Bukhari actually is innocent from that. Why? He's innocent from that because he didn't say that. He said, "Alfadhuna min a'malina." Our words are from our actions. وَأَعْمَالُنَا مَخْلُوقًا, and our actions are created. He didn't say the Quran is created. He said our words, the wind, the teeth, the tongue, all this is created. And he went writing a big book called خَلْقُ أَفْعَالِ الْعِبَادِ. That means creating the actions of mankind. So he defended himself because they accused him. Who accused him? One of the great students of Imam Ahmad, Yahya ibn al-Dhuhli. And Muhammad bin Yahya al-Dhuhli is a great Imam al-Sunnah al-Khurasan. And when Bukhari went to Khurasan and someone asked him this question and he answered, he just said, "Oh guys, no one sit down with Ahmad Muhammad because he's an innovator." Ya Imam, go and sit with him, discuss with him, ask him. The same problems we have nowadays happened in those days. So he sent messages to people, "Hey guys, Ahmad Bukhari is an innovator. Stop sitting with him. Stop meeting him. Stop." So poor guy, he was forced to go out of his city, and he went back to Bukhara, and then a problem happened to him there, and subhanAllah, a big problem. So actually a big problem. Many scholars were accused to be lafdiyya. Most Sunnis started accusing each other, and that's a big problem. But actually what Imam Bukhari said is the truth. In this era appeared a man called Abdullah ibn Sa'id ibn Kullab. Abu Muhammad Abdullah ibn Sa'id ibn Kullab. So he's not known as a scholar, not known as an imam, not known as a muhaddith. And he started refuting the Jahmis, the Mu'tazilis, and defending the Sunnah by his way. But he's not a scholar, he's not a well-known person. So he started mixing Sunnah with some theology opinions. And that's why Imam Ahmad was so upset of him, and he told people to boycott this guy. Boycott him because he's an innovator. So this guy actually started throwing his ideas, and that's why they started calling the people who were around him Al-Kullabiyya. Al-Kullabiyya. And the Kullabiyya, these are the ancestors of the Ash'aris, because Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari adopted his opinion in the beginning as if it's the Sunni opinion, and Ibn Kullab was the Ash'aris respect Ibn Kullab. They consider him as one of them, although he was before them, but they respect him. Abu Bakr ibn Furak, who was a great Ash'ari Imam, he went searching for the words of Ibn Kullab and Ash'ari and put them both with each other as if they're one opinion. Okay? And when this appeared, and some of the students of Imam al-Khuzaymah, rahimahullah, adopted some of his opinions, Imam al-Khuzaymah was so upset and so angry. And they were his students. And he was so upset of them and angry of them. And he said that this is an innovation. And he used to tell them that I'm very upset that you go and sit down with these kullabis. And Imam Ahmad was very harsh on these kullabis. He was very, because they started, although they seemed as Sunnis, but in the days of the pure Sunnah, these guys appeared as an intermediary between Sunnah and Bid'ah. Okay? So that's why Ibn Kullab actually is a problem, because some say, yeah, he's a Sunni, defended Islam, but when he appeared in those days, there was a big refutation between Sunnah and Bid'ah, he appeared between both of them, and that's the problem actually. Now, whose are these Waqifa? Let us stop here, inshallah, and continue next lesson. Thank you very much for being patient with me. Alhamdulillah, wa sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.